Blog Talk Radio.
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
I'll keep my freedom, I'll keep my guns, try to keep my money and my religion too.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by, Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
I'm going to keep my big V8, keep my friends the same, keep the government out of my business, and y'all can keep the change.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
We know what we need, we know who to blame.
Catch the Free American Hour, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
I'll keep the USA and y'all can keep the change.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully everything's recording here. We had some computers crash and go down. But my guest today is Christopher Strunk, and his website is www.Association for Sovereign Home Rule. Did I get all of that, Chris?
Yes, within. The last word is within.org.
Okay,
so I figured if I took that name, nobody'd want to take it.
Well, give me a little bit of update about how your week's been. You've had some events going on and things like that, haven't you? What's been happening now besides the storms in Washington D.C. knocking out power, kind of screwing up a 4th of July celebration in our nation's capital, huh?
Well, we've had some large coronal mass ejections, and certainly after a quiet last 11 years being so quiet with the meander minimum, that the sun is trying to make up for lost time. And it's personally, I like warm weather, and I like I spent time out in your desert near Luke Air Force Base for a while, and spent time in North Africa and in Libya and in Turkey. So I understand that all you have to do is stay a little cooler, is stay out of the sun. But I don't like cold weather, although I am a cold weather person. We discussed last time that I've been sort of scoping windmills with the New World Order, and specifically their fair boy, Catholic Knight Zbigniew Brzezinski, who I call the Opium King. And that it appears that all those chickens are coming home to roost. I heard a report that we're paying $400 a gallon for gasoline for the last couple of years because we stupidly blew up a convoy of Pakistanis with one of our errant missiles. And so somebody's making a lot of money. It's not me. But that's what the business of war is all about, make money.
Now, on this show, I mean, it's the sound from this microphone on here, but it's the sound on Blog Talk Radio, I'm sure, is fine. The problem is the sound on this particular on Blog TV is not coming in good. We always had problems with that. That's why I use this other computer. That's why I'm trying to get the other computer set up and working again, but we had to do a complete reboot.
Well, you're talking Chinese to me. Although I've been around computers for a long time, I've never been into the broadcast end of things, so I'll take you at your word.
All right, now the last shows that we've done with you, and you bring up an interesting world viewpoint. Now, I like to think that one of my strengths here is that I am not, I don't get absorbed by or involved with dogma. You know, and way too many Christians believe if you don't, there's how many thousands of sects of Christianity, and all of them believe, well, if you don't believe like I believe, you're going to go to hell. And the problem,
they don't seem to realize we're there already.
Yeah, I wrote a poem about that 40 years ago. The devil shows up at a party. He smokes some dope with the people in the party, and then they're whisked out of this plane, insane, like a leap in the winds of a hurricane. From this plane we were torn, and my guest I could see steady and free. We cried, "How can this be?" God, and he turned to go. He said, you know, you can control the winds of destiny. You don't have to be leaping more anymore. And he turned to go, and they cried, God, stay, I pray, show us the way. And he said, your God doesn't care. My burden he doesn't share. Yet still of me you say, beware. Hell, you shouldn't care. You can't go, because you are there, and you stay till you pay. As I said before, you stay as men, not more. And there you go with my cosmology. Maybe the devil ain't a bad guy. Maybe he was put to rule this world because this world is the hell that was created after the last Planet X passing. What do you think?
Well, I think you're a man of letters. Or either that or the Tucson sun has gotten to your head. But no, I think that we better make do with what we have, or else we're going to be a wisp of energy floating off into the universe someplace. You know, don't let time pass you by, because you only have one life to live. Unfortunately, we're having to buck the system, which is essentially sapping our energy and our ability to do what we need to do creatively. I think that your idea about local self-sufficiency is important and essential, and that you know, energy, food, and defensible space requires the thinking of somebody with the semblance of organization abilities having to do with the military. But think that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but I think that we've got a high-tech problem here that the government, as such, is holding back from us, and that when you and I went to school, everybody was carrying a slide rule that looked like a Roman short sword, and that disappeared. And certainly, I have an 18-year-old son. He's nowhere close to where I was when I was 12. And that's a concern for me, because our culture has taken a turn for, I guess, less accepting less while doing more. We're on a treadmill here, and I think that we better get a semblance of organization together, notwithstanding the dogma issue, and that certainly I don't subscribe to Christianity or Judaism or any other religion, nor do I subscribe to the Luciferian concept either. But I do know that if we don't make it through the next 50 years at a higher level of thinking, I don't think, going to be around to survive the next cycle. And what I heard after the last ice age, there were only 30 childbearing women left, and we're a result of that. But, hey, if nothing else, let's protect the ability to have women that can bear our children, notwithstanding all of the DNA recombinant stuff. No, I think that what I'm doing and what you're doing is essential, and our ability to speak about it has been seriously suppressed in the mainstream media. I subscribe to the old continuing battle between the Roman oligarchy and everyone else for control of the commerce coming out of Africa, and that so anything I spin out comes with a tag on it out of Africa, and that I think that the present Schmigagan jackanapes sitting in what I call Bush 4, sitting in office, is part of that scheme to grab a lot of African resources. But I may be wrong, but I don't think I'm all that wrong. I think that what's interesting, you had mentioned to me that the Federal Reserve Charter comes up for renewal next year, and I've been aware of creditors in commerce and admiralty law for a long time. And of course, admiralty and creditors in commerce is all about one region of the world or one country between another country carrying out commerce. And we've all adopted the Roman system of pay up or don't do business. But that I haven't come to grips with what I'm going to do to keep my family running. And I see that things are going to go. We're on a slippery slope right now, especially with this health care bill that was just passed. I think that or was given a go-ahead by I call him the Knight of Malta's, the man of the hour, John Roberts, who evidently had a number of vulnerabilities that Chicago pulled the strings on. He adopted a couple children out of Central South America, and he has some immigration problems, as well as he has some IOU problems like Donald Trump has out of Chicago. So, the game's fixed. The internet is nice because it's doing what it's doing right now for you and I. And to the extent that I think there's 10 or so million computers that may be shut down with the virus that the FBI had discovered a number of years ago, and that I hope everybody cleans up their computers so they can continue to use the internet. I think the internet, no matter who's using it, I couldn't do what I'm doing today if it weren't for the internet. It really empowers me, and that allows us to do what we're doing.
It's interesting. Everything that you talk about, the connection of the Vatican to all of this, the Masonic connection, the Jewish connection, that's all there. That's all real. And it's been in place for probably 4,000 years, I think possibly even longer.
So you're saying since the Jews left Babylon and went to Egypt, and certainly when they took down...
First of all, the Jews, the problem that we have with the Jews, the Zionists here, the people that have created the last two wars and bragged about it. They have bragged about it, that we're back 100 years ago, they bragged that they were responsible for killing 100 million Christians. They bragged about this. We're talking about rabbis that are bragging. The Vatican has done more than that. The church, I believe, was pretty responsible for the whole attack on the Mayans, on the Aztec, on the Indian civilization that were already here.
All right. Well, certainly the conquistadors had committed major slaughter and are remarkably different than the Portuguese. The Spanish who ran Rome for centuries refused to make a deal, whereas the Portuguese went in and at least exchanged something for their benefit, and the Spanish just went in and killed. And they are not well received, basically, by the Indians, although the Indians were slaughtered. What you're saying is on target, but certainly I don't believe that the religion of Judaism exists per se as an active religion until that third temple is built. And the deal has been made with the Roman families after 70 A.D. that the only way the third temple is going to be rebuilt is under the control of Rome. And that's what we see in the Oslo Accords and the roadmap that George Bush 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it looks like Romney's Bush 5, that they're going to carry out the destruction of any national interest in the Mideast so that Babylon can be rebuilt along with the reseating of Rome and at the third temple.
Well, that's really what the Iraqi war was about. They also went into the museums there and took away any historical material that might have been of benefit to us.
I saw that. My nephew had spent 2 tours in Iraq, and Saddam Hussein was really going hog wild about rebuilding Babylon. He did more archaeological improvements than anybody previously, I guess, in comparison to the Mongols that came in and destroyed everything. But certainly he really was digging everything up and was setting himself up as new Nebuchadnezzar or whoever the potentate was at the time of Babylon.
Well, the main thing about Saddam Hussein, we set him up, we financed him. Rumsfeld was over there shaking hands with him. We armed him so he could go against Iran. The ultimate thing is to take back over Persia, and who has remained autonomous. Well, there's a few countries. Iraq was one of them. Afghanistan's another, and of course, Afghanistan's got the opium poppies.
And Syria. Syria is one of the Alawite Muslims who are considered heretics, apostate. They're the only ones giving protection to the Jews and the Christians in Syria. So when they go, forget about it. That's everything's a clean slate, and basically Iran's going to be, the old Iranian families. And I'm not talking about the Sunni. The Sunni are just as phony baloney as or the Shiite are just as phony baloney as the Sunni are. They're just a manufactured myth, just like Christianity was. And I'm willing to discuss that at length. But that Rome didn't have an army that was strong enough to be stationed in the Mideast. It needed to get somebody to suppress its Eastern church and to suppress the competition over commerce flowing through the Mideast from Africa. And it manufactured through its rabbinical structure the new ecumenism as well as Islam back in 634. My understanding is that an actual rabbi was the one who wrote and outlined the Quran. So it's all phony baloney crapola, and certainly Iran, which predates all that, the actual the Aryan race, it spreads all the way out into northern India. The Aryans predate anything that the Sumerians or other civilizations had produced, and they're tenacious, aren't they? They are really tenacious.
Well, that's one of the things that I'm working on, and I intend to consult with you as much as possible on this book that I've been working on for 40 years. Took me 40 years of research to be able to complete it, but I started it a long time ago, and it basically goes all the way back to biblical times, and what I say is that thousands of years ago, the earth was a different place. A race like no other existed. There was a technology far ahead of the levels we know of today. They faced a disaster similar to what killed the dinosaurs. They sent their people out into space. But a few brave souls stayed to help the less advanced inhabitants of the planet rebuild. They were genetically advanced men, almost immortal, incredibly powerful, telepathic, able to manipulate matter with their minds. They were also known as gods, angels, warriors, and demons among the survivor of our planet's close encounters with a galactic intruder. The legends and names of these are scattered throughout our history. Their power grew, pervasive, hidden through modern times. Humanity was divided, conquered, and controlled by unseen hands. Today, the balance of power slipped into the hands of the most feared being in history. That's where it goes into science fiction. But I believe that that is an accurate picture of what happens, and we're descended from those gods or those Aryans that had the power to lift stones weighing tons and place them with micromillimeter accuracy. And they probably had the ability to zip around the skies, have breakfast on the moon. And I think that's the whole secret behind the UFOs. The government doesn't want you to know that you could have lunch in the cafe on the moon and be back in time for dinner without using any gasoline.
Well, certainly we're the footmen of somebody because we're not smart enough really to get out of our own way if you just measure up what's going on now. I mean, we're a pretty dumb group of people. We're wasting our youth, we're wasting our assets, we're wasting everything. And I always located that somebody is behind doing it, and there's an intent to it. I mean, human race, I don't believe, is as stupid as we appear, and that nothing as bad that's going on now happens without a lot of planning and a lot of design. And that, personally, I think that we're capable of changing the direction of things. And when I get that plan, I'll pass it on to you.
I think, we've got human history goes back about 5,000 years. They say the pyramids were built 5,000 years ago. They want you to think a bunch of slaves were able to accomplish something we can't do today. I don't.
I disagree with that. I believe that the pyramids date way back before the time of Noah, and that they just discovered in Turkey a series of caves which with very sophisticated architecture, which dates well back before 12,000 years earlier from now. And that is an exceptional find, which shows that there was a prior civilization that was no longer with us. I have to think about it, Clay. I don't think that when you don't pass on your skills from one generation to another, you can disappear in 2 generations, and that it's certainly reasonable to associate that in a 100-year period, technology disappears because people don't use it anymore, and the know-how is passed on from individual to individual only when it comes down to hands-on operation. Otherwise, it becomes a sort of a priesthood of those that know and those that don't. As H.G. Wells and Bertrand Russell discussed, and as H.G. Wells discussed in the Time Machine. I'm not along for the ride per se, but certainly I've been swept along by events. I have my own path that I'm moving along, and I think that it's based upon the need for local autonomy and energy, food, and the defense of the local stability. But it's not going to solve the problem. I think that the reason that they left the Earth was that there is a cyclical resetting of the time clock, per se, of the relationship of energy and mass by the sun, which is a pulsar at the center, and that is sort of like the master program, the operating system in which keeps everything in balance, and it's got to reset every 12,000 or so years, and according to the Hubble telescope and its studies over the last 20 or so years, we've seen 12,000-year gaps in what I'm saying in the universe, like rings on a tree. So that I believe that 2046, the sun is going to ablate. It's going to blow up, just like it's done previously at the time of Noah, and that the Earth will spin in a different direction. Not this year, but in 2046.
It happened before. The Bible and other sources say that the Earth, that the sun reversed its direction on the Earth during the.
Well, I got it out of Velikovsky initially back in the 50s when I started reading his work. And Velikovsky was a psychiatrist. He had his hobby was history. You know, he was scientific only from the standpoint of being a psychiatrist in the Soviet Union, and with that and 50 cents, you can make a phone call in New York. But I read all of Velikovsky and created the Future Past, a short story I did a long time ago that the novel Lucifer will be built upon. But it's Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision. That's Venus and Mars passing too close to Earth and creating things like the asteroid belt. And you throw in Planet X or Nibiru, we don't know exactly where this came. Or it could have been just a piece of rock fell on Earth. I mean, they try to tell you that it wiped out the dinosaurs. What would a global flood like that do to a advanced civilization? The only thing you'd have left is pyramids, isn't it? Well, the pyramids were built by the prior civilization in order to protect their women from being destroyed. And I believe that the pyramids have gone through a number of oblations of the sun. The key, though, is Kenya, Angola, Ecuador, and Brazil, because they are on the equator, and that they are what will, with a stable equator, they will survive the next oblation as long as you can escape from having to be part of the initial blast in that 8-hour period that the Bible speaks of when the earth stands still. But that I believe that's why Obama was chosen from Kenya in particular, because that Kenya is the high priority property that will survive the next oblation. That's really a way out there. But I say that to you because you're obviously somebody who's thought through prior civilizations, and I believe that Obama being, they say he's the cousin to Brad Pitt and Richard Cheney, and as an Irishman, right? I have said that I think Obama is the perfect New World Order leader. He's perfect. Think about it. He's black, he's white, he's Christian, he's Muslim, he's Jewish. Oh, his grandmother's Jewish. He's the perfect and that's why he's the first person that the UN appointed as chief of the security. And they give him the Nobel Peace Prize as he's committed war. He's committed more wars than George W. Jr. That's what I just read his motto earlier in the before the show began. I'd kill for a Nobel Peace Prize. Did he say that? No, but I said it to him. He's done it. I don't know. I'm sure he said it a few times. Well, look, a friend of mine is a historian and a very interesting person who's a researcher, done projects for the CIA, the person essentially had done research on the dive of Egypt and how the Roosevelt family was connected in, and that the Nobel family fortune was connected to Ethel Rosenberg, and that they essentially had to get her out of the way because she was a major claimant against the Nobel fortune. I bet you've never heard that one before, have you? But the person I'm looking at now goes back into Jack the Ripper and the relationship of the British family to Egypt, which is really a sort of an out of sight story. But I've known the person, I guess, 6 years now, and I've listened to her lay out the story, and I've seen her do her work. And it's quite remarkable that she may be right.
All right, tell you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to switch something around here and stay with me here for just a second.
Are we still online?
Yeah, we're still online. I'm just going to close one of these down here and reopen it in another computer here. We're not going to break off. I'll just be off of recording off of Talk Radio for just a second. I'll be right back to you, folks.
Okay, we're going into hyperspace here.
Just about. Let's see if I did this. Did I do this one right?
Well, I've never gotten into this area of technology, Clay. Although I've been doing computers since the 60s, I never really got to be a wonk per se. I've only used them as a tool. But it appeared to me that the concentration of energy in computers is one of the blessings which has allowed us to maybe solve some of our problems coming up. And
recorded live.
Are we back online here?
Almost here. One more here to get up and recording the second half. We might even stretch it out if I'm having fun, and I'm having fun. So
I'm on a short fuse today. I've got to file some paperwork in Washington. So
all right, we've got about 30 minutes left right now, and I'm just starting this other show up again, and starting this one up again, and
this broadcast live?
Yeah, we're being broadcast live. Oops, that's the other thing I forgot here. All right. Thank you for reminding me of that. We just get half-hour shows today. And 1 hour on one place, 1 hour on another. It doesn't matter much.
We're up and running?
Yes, sure. Almost one more here to get up. Okay, hopefully your sound will be better now. Hopefully your sound will be better on the second half. My guest is ChrisStrunk, and that's the Association for Sovereign Home Rule
Within. Again, I chose that because I know nobody else would ever choose it. So if you put those words into the computer, I'm at the top of it.
Okay, that's up there now, and we're recording on our second half, and hopefully everything will be working. How's it going on Blog TV there now, guys? Can you hear Chris a little bit better on this computer here? And Okay, we'll put.
Are those passengers on your? Are those passengers on your spaceship, Clay?
Get that one going. We got that going. Let me get this one started here. And the technology is great, but we're still having, still got to operate it, and there's a learning curve there. All right. Okay, they can hear and see me fine. Okay, everything's working now. And my guest is Chris Strunk. We've kind of skipped around here. It's hard to cover 10,000 years in 1 hour, but you can buy the books and read about it. It'll be a lot more detailed, and we're working on them. I'll be writing that this year, and we're opening up communications with large publishing companies. And let me tell you something else. There's something else.
I'm all ears.
This month. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
I say I'm all ears.
Well, I boiled this down after reporting on this New World Order takeover. I mean, I've read Ezra Pound. I've read G. Edward Griffin. I've read Eustace Mullins. Met Eustace Mullins.
Right.
And I reported on all this. We got people like you on that have got an opinion, and it's valid. I mean, I think every conspiracy theorist out there may have valid opinions because somewhere, sometime in history, that probably happened, huh?
Well, they certainly been. We've gone around so many times that they must be touching bases in one of those times. Yeah.
I mean, Alexander Solzhenitsyn told us exactly what was happening when the communists took over, why he was put in a prison camp. Why? Because he was a writer. He was a communicator. They can't let people like that go. And that's why we're the talk show hosts and radio show hosts that are actually telling you the truth. I mean, not the ones that are supported and paid for by Clear Channel, like Rush Limbaugh and Michael Savage and all those guys.
Well, Solzhenitsyn's my wife's favorite. And she even wanted to move to Vermont just because he was there. My wife is a Russian, so.
The Russians should know better than anybody just what slavery is like. They are no better than the blacks. They were put into slavery under communism, and what did they call it?
Under the Mongols before that.
Yes. There's never been a point in history, folks, when it was easy to be free. And your founding fathers tried to warn you, if you're dependent on government to take care of you, any government that's big enough to take care of you is big enough to destroy you. And people, the government this year, in this century. Now, I'm in you can see on my Facebook page, I'm in a relationship now. That relationship couldn't have happened last century. Couldn't have happened. Because it happened on the computer, it happened on Skype, it happened using stuff that wasn't available 10 years ago. I think that's an advantage. Everything is a double-edged tool. Now, they're using the internet to keep track of us. But it gives us the ability to respond and work together and talk to each other. And that's why things are running better here, because I have help here. I've got people that I met that care about this country, that care about what we're trying to do here. And I want to make money. Yes, I wrote my books to make money. I wrote my books to sell you my books. Yes, sir, I sure did. That's what I do the show about. This is what it's about. So anybody that's on there telling you, oh, I'm going to buy his books, he's a con. Everything I ever did is put in writing, is put in film. It's here, folks. I'm real. Now, I do need help to stay in business. So I do need you to buy a book. I do need you to make some decisions. But on my website right now, and Chris, I invite you to take a look at that because you're on the website too. This show will be on the website, linked to your site. I appreciate the work that you're doing. But I have talked with two companies as of this week, and actually for quite some time. a number of companies that I've talked to, and you can contact them up on my site. I've got companies that are building water filters that will remove radioactivity and fluoride from your water supply.
That's not easy.
It's a triple filter, but it don't cost much more than a Berkey, and it does a lot more.
Huh.
I've got 3 sets of structures. I've got 2 Liberty Villages in existence right now.
Really? No, I'm an aquaculture person. I do. I'd actually submitted small business proposals to do startup hydroponics back in 1991 using the fish here in Williamsburg, and some rabbi counted the tilapia's scales and said there weren't enough scales, and the deal fell apart. But
and it wasn't kosher. It wasn't kosher. It wasn't blessed by a rabbi. You didn't pay off the rabbi. You didn't pay off the priest.
Well, this, I have no problem with the Jewish community. I don't think they're chosen particularly, but but this guy was chosen to come in and count the scales. Anyway, I'm very familiar with self-sustaining agriculture, and on a high.
What I envision for Liberty Villages is this. Now, folks, this is my vision. This ain't, but now I have the land. I got 40 acres outside of Austin, outside of San Antonio. We've got another. Wow. We got another spot of land just a little bit north of there, 30 to 40 acres, and we're going to put on these acreages in 1 acre lots. We're going to put little communities, little villages. So you've got at least 10 people around you to help you run the village, run your common areas, feed the goats, pull the weeds in the garden. You got people working together. Now, this whole concept could be done across the street in 1 square block. I've got films up on my site about a woman converting her backyard, putting boxes in it, above ground boxes. You didn't have to till the soil. Put wood chips on it, filter the water, and she's growing food for her whole neighborhood at one house, in 1 yard. Now, you do this to 1 acre or 40 acres, split up. You wanna have a Mexican village? You want tacos? Hey, I'll stop by on Friday night and get tacos. You want a Jewish village, man? I'll stop and buy your lox and bagels every Sunday.
Well, that's all dependent upon whether or not the government is satisfied with leaving things alone. And
well, they're not satisfied. Everything they have done since I came up with the concept of Liberty Village. 10 homes working together, people living in inexpensive houses. You don't have any money. How about a teepee for $3,000? You want a nice 2-story house with a loft, about half the size, about 1,000 square feet, so you can take care of it. You can probably get that for about $40,000 or $50,000. You could get a yurt for $10,000. And I also on my website. You equip that low-cost structure, so you're not paying $100,000 and $200,000 in interest over the rest of your life to the banks.
So you've got a veterans finance program here.
That's exactly right. The whole plan calls for veterans to have. We got too many homeless veterans. So let's make the veterans a part of this. You got 5 acres, an acre you want to donate to this. We'll put 6 veterans on there to guard the place and to milk the goats and to fix the fences.
Well, my background is actually architecture, among other things. And my father was a generally recognized architect here in New York for 50 years. And that, my background is actually, I'm a carpenter I'm a jack of all trades, Clay, and certainly I believe that building houses with local materials, which is what my training is, and as I wanted to build houses using hay, using stucco and hay, and thatch and that sort of thing. So certainly I understand. I was down at Lackland Air Force Base when I was in the Air Force, and I know the climate generally, and there's a big difference between the Panhandle and the south portions of Texas.
Right. They say that there's two classes of people that live in adobe homes: the very rich and the very poor.
Well, but it's true, because it's the use of local materials which is effective in producing shelter. And I was going to do, as they say, hay bale houses, which is a very effective way of building a house. You get an acre of property and just mow the grass a couple times a year, and you've got yourself a house. And certainly I made plaster. I'm a jack of all trades, Clay. You're talking to somebody who still has a lot of energy. Okay. And
let me ask you. Okay, we got a couple more things. Now, I do have solar generators online right now. You can buy it right now. You can order one right now. About $3,000, and you've got a unit that comes with 2 solar panels, but you can expand it as much as you want. That means, and it would seem to me if the Taiwanese can build a computer in the back of their shack in Taiwan, that we ought to be able to build solar panels and wind generators in our garages around this country.
Well, I run my house on solar panels. I've done it for quite a few years, and I've got. My father was very much into ceramics and doing kiln work, and that I had done studies into doing ingots of silicon, so that I could slice up and actually create solar panels of my own. And I never really had the infrastructure in which to do it, but I'm familiar with the way of extracting ingots through molten silicon. So what you're saying is all doable, and the problem is it's getting the wherewithal to. Right now I'm all tied up with my legal work. I'll be tied up for the next 8 or 9 months. For me to pick up and move at this point is it's a serious effort. A friend of mine moved from Massachusetts to Texas and actually studied kickboxing with Chuck Norris, and she's doing very well now in creditors and commerce business, giving seminars. Look, our lives are being controlled by the Vatican. There was a whole piece up on Ron Paul's website about Justice Roberts having an account at the Vatican Bank. When in fact, everybody's big letter name on their birth certificate is a securitized bond, has been bought and sold, continues to be bought and sold on an ongoing basis. And essentially our mothers sold us down the river to the state when they gave birth to us, and gave our name over to the state's youth, who immediately turned around and sold it. And so...
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying to many out there that we have the capability of becoming bankers ourselves by regaining control of the use of our name, which is the modern day constructive slavery that was set up under the Federal Reserve and under Roosevelt specifically, and Social Security coming in later in 1935. But certainly, people have got to focus on taking control of their own lives, and they can't do it unless they control their own debt. And,
well, the debt is the way they control us. I mean, borrow this money, borrow this money, borrow this money. The whole mortgage system is a scam. You pay for all your 2,000 square foot home. You pay for basically 10,000, something that's worth 10,000. You pay 100,000 for it, and then you pay another 200,000 over the next 30 years in interest.
Right. We're profit centers as individuals unless we can control our own cash flow, or actually our own debt. The idea, though, is that you told me that in 2013 the Federal Reserve comes up for a charter renewal, and I want you to explain that to me. You said basically. In 2000.
Go ahead.
You said in 2013 the Federal Reserve comes up for whatever it's coming up for. I don't. You fill me in. I don't know. But certainly
their charter was for 100 years.
100 years. Okay.
And
what do you think is going to be done?
I don't think it's going to make much difference. I think everything is handling is under the table. I mean, nothing they're doing is legal, but nobody will go arrest them. I mean, because they control as I see it right now, the FBI, the CIA, all of the intelligence agencies are working for the banks. The banks own the property. The banks own the debt. The banks own all of this. They're getting all the interest. They got all the money, and all they got to do, it's like Carl Klang says. If you print your very own money, you're pretty soon you can own the whole neighborhood.
Certainly, fractional banking has been in existence ever since we got rid of, in big time, ever since we got rid of the gold standard in '71. And I don't think the gold standard return is the solution, but I think certainly the ability of people in controlling their own debt is the solution. That's one of my projects this year, to actually file as the trustee of my own, the straw man for my own name. I've been putting it off, but it appears that I may have a debt to take care of this year, because the court case that I had against Zbigniew Brzezinski and his family has hit me with fees of close to $150,000 to $200,000 that I've got to get essentially pay off, and I figured I'll do it through the creditors in commerce registration. I'm sort of a couple years ahead of most people on this issue, and I say this with all seriousness that I am interested in what you're doing down there, and trying to do it up here in New York. And unfortunately, the Jesuits' control of the Department of Agriculture that started under the Roosevelt administration have been essentially paying farmers not to plant, and essentially that combined with the oil industry's control of energy in the local communities up here in New York has precluded my ability to organize local sovereignty, and that nobody wants to plant and nobody wants to create their own energy. So, hey, who knew?
Why wouldn't they? Let me just talk about that, folks. One of the concepts of this is that every home, and by the way, we've got three types of dwellings available. We've got teepees and yurts. We've got tiny Texas houses. This is all built from recycled material, salvaged material, and they're well built, and you can see them driving down Interstate 10 outside of San Antonio.
Tiny Texas houses.
Tiny Texas houses, and I've got a video up. We got pictures up there. And I've asked people, when I first designed this, I was looking at probably 1,500 square foot trailers that looked like cabins made by Camco.
It's pretty big.
It's a park model trailer, so it can be towed and it can be put up, it can be set up. And I looked at those first. They're about $20,000. And these, if you put a couple of these cabins up, and you've got plenty of room to live in. I mean, people do that, and it's just not. People aren't thinking the right way. They've been programmed the wrong way. These small, tiny Texas towns out there that settled all across the West. This is the foundation of America. And the Richard Kelly Hoskins said the self-sufficient family farm is that's the basis of every civilization. And that's why the communists go after the farmers first. That's happening now. They don't want you growing food in your backyard. They don't want you being able to feed yourself. So Liberty Villages turns that around. Every village has a garden or a common garden or your own little spot there around your home where you can grow food and trade with your neighbors. And if you're generating your own electricity from everything God gave you, why do you need to pay the electric company who made a deal with some Chinese company to put some windmills up on your beautiful mountains up here and put that electricity in the wires, run it back down, so the electric company can sell it to you? Why don't you just generate your own? Now, what's happened in New York, the electricity went down in New York City for a week, maybe, or several days anyway.
Well, that was in Virginia, not New York City.
Okay, Virginia.
We just had a strike. As everybody, all the unions went on a strike on Con Ed, and they're now running the entire system with supervisors only, who, as Curtis Lewa says, have been doing donuts for years, and now they actually have to put their bellies over the control panels of the power stations. So we've had no problems here in New York yet.
Okay, now and in the West, we've got forest fires, we've got neighborhoods burning, we got towns burning, and so again you're getting cut off from your electricity. Lines are burning, winds are blowing down. Why not just be self-contained? They don't want you that way. That's why they made it. It's a violation of national security to create a magnetic motor. Oh, that's perpetual motion. That doesn't exist, so we don't allow it.
So what's your solution? I mean, you're obviously engaged in pitting a battle with the government. The solution is that before the end of this year, I'll have 2 operating Liberty Villages, showcases to show people how to live. I've already got the solar generators on my thing. You can expand on those. One of the houses that I have, how many homes were destroyed by tornadoes or hurricanes last year? Well, we've got a little manufacturer in Texas, just north of Austin, that builds monolithic domes. If you go to monolithicdomes.com, you can see them. They go all the way up to stadium size, convention hall size, to small little homes that look a little like an igloo. If you paint them white, you could pass them off as an igloo. But they're made out of concrete. They're hurricane-proof. They're wind-proof. They're tornado-proof. And if you've got a solar generator set up in it, with it, as part of it, then you're pretty safe from just about anything except, a nuke. And I think that's the way to live in the future. I mean, if it stresses working together. We've already got the school set up. Timothy Bible College, a Little Red Schoolhouse, been going for 20 years there in Texas for homeschoolers. We've got that. As long as we've got internet connection, as long as we got satellites up, I don't want to destroy any infrastructure, but folks, as a people, this is our world, this is our country, we can take it back from the bankers. The bankers are the enemy. They are the, what do you call them, Pharisees, what do you call them, Jews, what do you call them, whatever, Muslims.
You know,
I call them Catholics. I call them Catholics. The Jews don't exist in my book.
I call them to the enemy. They're anybody that wants to, you know, this whole Christian thing. Now, be a good Christian. Be a good Christian. Well, every time I've been ripped off, it's been by somebody that said they were a Christian. Because evidently the Christians have something like the Jews do, like the Kol Nidre. So hey, you know, I did something wrong. Yeah, I did something wrong. But I accepted Jesus and God forgave me.
Well, certainly the confession thing, the Catholics, you know, that they can do all this nasty stuff, and as long as they put money in the poor box, they can do it over again. Yeah, I mean, it's an enticement to do wrong, as far as I'm concerned. But then, look, I don't consider Catholics Christians, nor do I consider Jews Jews. Judaism is a dead religion. It doesn't exist until they rebuild that temple. And they know the only way that temple is going to be rebuilt is to work with the Catholics. So, and certainly the Catholics in Rome specifically, have a long history of hacking and slashing anybody who disagrees with them. You know, the whole question of the temporal and spiritual power of Rome is legend, like 2,000 plus years more. And that's who we're contending with. I don't consider the Rothschilds Jews. I consider them Catholics. I don't consider the problems with the Muslims anything other than the question of what's to be done with the Middle East.
All right.
After all, look, Indonesia.
Call recording has been completed.
We're almost out of time here. I want to thank you for being with me, and love to have your expertise helping with the Liberty Villages. Because
I'll go on your website. I'll go on your website and give it a look-see and let you know what I think. And but I'm certainly interested. You know, I've got people down in Texas that I sent down there.
This should be all across the country. I want Liberty Villages linked across the country the way Cracker Barrel Restaurant and Motel 6s are. It's a way to take control of your life again. And by opening it up to the public, by renting teepees, houses, or the villages out, by inviting them into a restaurant with homegrown, you know, organic food, I think we got something there. I think
certainly
you're giving them literature too. You're giving them literature and videos here. Learn. You know.
Yeah. Well, the Safe Food Act is November of 2010 is certainly the act which is the nail in the coffin of self-sufficiency. You can't grow a tomato plant in your backyard in your front window unless you got a license from the government. No, that was really the straw that broke the camel's back, and the reason that I set up the Association for Sovereign Home Rule within. And so look, Doug, Clay, I keep on calling you Doug. You know, my friend Doug Vogt out in Washington State, I talked to him about coming onto your program, and he's interested. And perhaps I'll turn him on to your website, and he would come on and talk about some of the things that I'm sure you'll find fit into exactly what you've been talking about. But
we're out of time here. Chris, I'll have you back on. And for you, everybody else listening out there, I want to thank you and tell you to go to my website. My phone number is up on every website. All the links to Chris's website are up there. This show is up there. Start telling people about it. The whole opposition here that we're talking about, whether it's Catholic, whether it's Jews, whether it's New World Order, they're tyrants, and they don't want the people to have any power. What I want is for every one of you to have all of the power that they want you to believe they have. God is within you. He ain't in any building. He ain't in any. He ain't anywhere. These people that are got their hand out asking for money and for donations, they're all your enemies, and you're financing them. My God, why can't you people understand?
So Clay, I'll be in touch.
All right, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
All right.
for being on my show today. Pass this on. Tell your.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.